David Fincher is known for his meticulous directing and unique visual style. His style grew from a background in music videos, and he used the same style as he moved into directing feature films. Fincher's cinematography is some of the most thought out and intentional work being done right now. Today I want to analyze my favorite scene from David Fincher's Zodiac and highlight and explain some of the cinematography decisions that were made. This scene takes place near the end of the film, when Robert Graysmith goes to talk to Bob Vaughn to find more information about Rick Marshall, the man Graysmith believes to be the Zodiac. Before I begin analyzing this scene, I want you to keep in mind an important fact. This entire scene is constructed from the perspective of Graysmith. The audience only knows what Graysmith knows, and we should feel how he feels. With this in mind, let's get into the scene. The wide exterior shot just gives us some facts. It's night and it's raining outside. The first shot we see within the house gives us information that becomes important later on. Vaughn locks the door. Notice Vaughn's reflection in the nearby mirror. Vaughn locking the door and the presence of the mirror become important later in the scene. We enter the kitchen and dolly back into the master shot. This shot is the master for the majority of the scene. Vaughn settles into the left side of the screen, creating a balanced, comfortable shot with both men in frame. The tension is low in the beginning of this scene. Now we get the first medium close-up of Graysmith. Tension is still low. So far, this scene is simply about acquiring more information about the Zodiac.
Do you remember the Zodiac?
When Graysmith mentions the Zodiac to Vaughn for the first time, there is a change in tone. In the master, Vaughn moves into profile, hiding half of his face from the audience. This specific blocking direction shows the audience that he may be holding something back. As Vaughn talks about his distaste for Rick Marshall, we get the first medium close-up of Vaughn. This first close-up shows that Vaughn has a definite relationship with Rick Marshall. As the camera goes shot reverse shot, notice how Vaughn is shot from an angle looking upwards, and Graysmith is shot from an angle looking downwards. Vaughn is beginning to understand what this meeting is about, and the cinematography foreshadows his control of power. The master pulls back, leaving what was once a balanced frame. Now Graysmith sits alone, just off center, with dark negative space to the right of the frame where Vaughn disappeared. Graysmith, still looking for information, is comfortable in this moment because he is being shown something new. He shares what used to be his medium shot with Vaughn in a comfortable two-shot. The close-up we get gives us a connection to Vaughn and the Zodiac, even though we don't currently suspect Vaughn to be the Zodiac. After Vaughn hands Graysmith the film reel, the two characters move back into the balanced master and shot reverse shot that we saw earlier in the scene. This cinematography sends us back into the low-tension calm that we felt in the beginning. Then Vaughn gives crucial information.
Mr. Graysmith, I do the posters myself. It's my handwriting.
With one line, tension fills the scene. Notice that the cuts between shots become significantly slower after this revelation. As Graysmith folds the poster, the shot of him changes to include the door in the background, subconsciously reminding the audience what sits behind Graysmith. We cut into an unbalanced close-up of Graysmith to highlight the fear that sits in his eyes. Behind him out of focus, Vaughn grabs the audience's attention by flipping on the light. Graysmith delivers a line of exposition, and we are reminded of what was said earlier in the film.
Not many people have basements in California.
Graysmith turns his head and looks directly into the lens. Keep in mind we are still in Graysmith's point of view. This shot is not a first-person point of view from Vaughn because of how close it is. This shot is so close on Graysmith because he feels paranoid and trapped by the man standing in front of him. Vaughn stands in the center of the frame, outlined by the basement door. The shot angles upwards at him, giving him an air of complete power. The reverse shows Graysmith looking small and helpless in the center of the frame. The downward angle adds to the lack of control felt in the shot. There is an important moment in the cinematography as the two characters descend into the basement. Vaughn walks down the stairs, turns on the light, and enters the basement. Fincher could have had Graysmith follow within the same shot, but he doesn't. Instead, we get this very symmetrical shot of Graysmith walking down the steps. Notice how close the walls are as Graysmith walks down, adding to his claustrophobic descent into the basement. Also notice the phone that sits at the bottom of the steps. This was not in Vaughn's shot, the implication being that this may be the phone that the Zodiac uses to make his calls. If it's uncommon to have basements in California, how much more uncommon must it be to have a phone line down there as well? Vaughn walks through the basement in almost complete silhouette. Graysmith moves into shadow as he follows Vaughn deeper in. The basement represents evil and darkness, the very place that a murder could happen. As Graysmith moves into the basement, notice how the camera angles upwards. This is to prepare the audience for this moment.
You live alone?
Graysmith hearing footsteps above him. Vaughn grabs the logbook to give information. Vaughn's presence in the center of the frame and the book at the very center shows that this is about the information he is giving. Graysmith's presence in the frame continues our fear of what could happen. Vaughn now stands on the left side of an unbalanced frame. The harsh light above him creates long shadows around his eyes and creates a menacing look. This is how Graysmith perceives Vaughn, but it may not necessarily be reality. Vaughn moves back into the shadows to deliver a menacing line.
Do you think he saw the film in our theater and was inspired?
Graysmith and the audience begin to believe that Vaughn may be the Zodiac. As Graysmith hears the noises again, the camera pushes very close on him, adding to the claustrophobic feeling of the basement and the overall tension of the scene. Graysmith feels trapped. As Graysmith begins to back out, the camera dollies with him. The camera leaves Vaughn, dollying back in fear, and we hear the sound of the tea whistling, which adds to the tension. Vaughn cuts the lights. This is the climax of the scene. If Vaughn was the Zodiac, this is where Graysmith would die. As Graysmith climbs back up the stairs, the sound of the tea kettle whistling gets extremely loud. Graysmith gets to the front door from the beginning of the scene and realizes it's locked. Graysmith sits pushed to the right of the frame with the mirror behind him to prepare for... We move into an over-the-shoulder shot from Vaughn's perspective. Vaughn looks large and fills the left of the frame, with Graysmith looking weak on the right side. This is the closest we get to Vaughn in the entire scene. It's saved for this moment. He again has shadows that darken his eyes. The close-up of the key diffuses the tension. Vaughn isn't going to kill him. He isn't the Zodiac. He is setting Graysmith free. Graysmith bolts out the door. Tension is diffused. He's escaped. We go back to the master shot from the beginning of the scene, and we end on Vaughn's smiling face. This scene is so wonderfully constructed because it exists to give the audience the same paranoia and fear that is felt by the main character, even if the fear is unwarranted. Fincher used cinematography to make the audience draw conclusions about a character even though there was no concrete evidence. In a film that is all about attaching the audience to paranoia and obsession, such meticulous technical work is a must. Hey guys, thank you for watching. I just want to let you guys know about a couple things. First off, I started a podcast. It's a film podcast where I talk about movies that have just come out and older movies. So if you want to check out that, it's going to be linked below. Second off, I wanted to just tell you that the last few weeks, uploads have been pretty sporadic, and I haven't been able to sit down and work like I've wanted to because of Christmas and other things that have been going on. So now uploads should be going back to a regular every other Tuesday. I'm going to go to a 2-week instead of a 1-week to give me more time to make better videos. I want to have this channel quality over quantity as much as possible. And finally, I just want to let you guys know that all of your comments that you make about how you are enjoying this channel and the encouraging comments that you make, those help me out so much and help me to continue to make these videos. So I just want to say thank you for that, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.